All right, back again with Inside with Kelly Bambi right here on D-Den. What a week it has been. A lot has been happening in the world of sport. I don't even know where to start right now. But something is happening right now, and this one has got to do with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Nigeria. Nigeria Football Federation, I don't know what to say to them right now, but this is not good for the boys. We have a very important game against Gabon on Thursday, 13th of November, 5 p.m. Nigerian time. And the boys are boycotting training today, 11th of November. Less than 2 days to that game. And I'm thinking, what the hell is happening? You know what? We'll talk about that today. And in fact, I'm going to be having a special guest that will join me on the show this evening so we can take a microscopic look into that particular story. And then we'll talk about Spain. A lot is happening. Lamine Yamal injury situation, and now he has left the camp for the national team. And looks like the national team coach is not really happy with what is happening. We'll talk about that today. And then Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, looks like next year's World Cup would be his last. Recently, he had an interview with Piers Morgan. There is a whole lot that happened that he said in that interview that I'm not happy with. I feel like, come on, you are the GOAT. You shouldn't be talking like this, Ronaldo. I'm a big fan of you, but talking like this, I feel like it make you look less than make you look more. Why would you come out and say that, oh, World Cup is just 6 games? It doesn't show true champion if you're playing 6 games to win the. Come on, come on. If you had won it, you wouldn't be speaking like this. I'll talk about that today and then take a look at what the chairman of the PGMOL has said over the web, saying that he's in support of that decision to rule out Liverpool's goal against Man City. Liverpool fans, they are not happy right now. Well, we'll talk about all of this on the show today. Inside with Kenny Babdile right here on the Den. So let's get into it. Let's start with the Super Eagles boycotting the training and all of that. But first, let me introduce my guest on the show this evening. It's Kolade Omotosho. He is a big name when it comes to Nigerian sport, talks football so well. And of course, he's going to be joining me today on this episode of Inside with Kenny Bamdili. Okay, let's get into it right now. Talk about the Super Eagles boycott. All right, Kolade, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining today.
Very well. Good evening. It's nice to be your guest on the day. All right.
Yeah, so I don't know if you have seen the Super Eagles story about the boycott. When you saw that, what went through your mind?
I mean, I keep asking myself that do these people even understand the magnitude of what is happening? I mean, we shouldn't even have this discussion. I mean, the Super Eagles should not even be talking about being a participant in the playoffs, if not for the abracadabra that can sweeping team gotten against the bottom place side, which I think favored Nigeria because in Nigeria's case, we were only able to secure 2 points against Zimbabwe. So we didn't lose so much of points, to that decision. For all others, they actually suffered much more, and that allowed Nigeria to sneak in as I think the third best loser. And that's why we're in this playoff now. But you now expect that the team should take this opportunity, this second bite at the cherry with so much of seriousness. I was still having this discussion with you earlier on today on the radio program, and I told you that I expected that at this time the camp should be bubbling with almost all of our biggest players. But at press time this afternoon, we were still awaiting the arrival of Victor Osimhen, and this was the guy that I think on Sunday when he was asked to sign an autograph, what he kept saying was he had a flight to catch, national call up to attend to, and all of that. You'd have expected that Monday, first light on Monday, he would have been in camp. But Tuesday press time, he was still here to report to camp. And if he was not in camp as at that time, that meant he was not going to participate in the training today, which meant only one training session before the match because the match is on Thursday. So now, if you have just one training session, how much of understanding, how much of synergy would you have formed with your teammates? I gave an instance of the rule as a Flick has established at Barcelona. You come late to training, the last training before the game, you do not start the game, regardless of your profile. You might be the best player in the world, You might be the superstar in the Barcelona team, but as long as you come late to the final training session, you will not start the game. And that's the rule that to a large extent has helped to instill discipline in that Barcelona squad. Of course, some players have still come late, they've still flouted the rule, but the punishment stands regardless of who you are. And to a large extent, it has helped. Rafinha has fallen foul, he was punished. Rashford fell foul, he was punished. I think Lewandowski fell foul, he was punished. So now, how do we translate that to the Super Eagles? If these players cannot show so much of commitment, it's like somebody that was given an opportunity. I could remember in 1992, Denmark did not make up they did not qualify for the Euro Championship. But something happened, a team was
Yeah, Kaladi, please, can you just, I want to say something now. I want to say something. I know you have a whole lot to say, but this is one question I have. Do you think it is right for the players to boycott training now that we have a crucial game? Now, this is it. The players are refusing to train over unpaid bonuses. According to the report we are hearing, the bonuses are reportedly for both the qualifying campaigns for the African Cup of Nations and the World Cup. So they are yet to be paid.
now let
The
me
bonuses, all of that. Do you think that they are right to boycott training when we have a crucial game for Thursday against Gabon?
now I think this is the way I will respond to this. First question is, do these players think that by qualifying for the World Cup they are doing Nigeria a favor? Is that what they think? Because if they actually think that they are doing their career a huge favor by going to the World Cup, they will not reason like this. Because the truth is, we have a lot of players that play for lowly sides, a lot of players that play for teams in Africa like Nwabali. If you go to the World Cup and you put up a stellar performance, you might get a move to a decent European side. So when they need to look beyond, it's not that they're not doing Nigeria a favor. If we don't go to the World Cup, Nigerian fans will complain. Yes, maybe we'll trend it on social media. Maybe it will be the topic of discussion across the airwaves for a couple of weeks. Nigerians will forget. We'll move on to the World Cup. Different Nigerians will adopt different teams. Some will adopt Brazil, some will become Argentines, some will become French guys, some will become, if they want to, show solidarity with their African brothers, they will adopt Morocco, adopt South Africa. So we'll move on. That's the honest truth. So it's not like Nigeria is losing if we don't go to the World Cup. It is these players that are losing. It is their career that is on the line. In a lifetime of a player, how many World Cups do you get to play? If you are lucky, you do 4. That's 16 years. That means you started early and you finished late. If you are very unfortunate, you might just be able to do 1. So it's a privilege to be able to stand a chance to go to the World Cup. So that you look at it, I'm not saying they don't deserve their wages. Of course, they deserve their wages, they deserve their bonuses, and it's a shame if they've not been paid. But they need to look beyond that. The honest truth is, how many of these players actually live on these bonuses? How many of these players that if they don't get these bonuses, they will starve? None. Perhaps none. So which means that they can actually go ahead. What I expect that put this bonus behind you, qualify, then go to war.
I mean,
Qualify.
I know I know you can go on talking about all of these things, but yes, Kolade, I'm going to get back to you shortly, right? But I want to mention a few things, and what I want to say is these players they know what they made us Nigerians, what we went through during the World Cup qualifying phase. From the first game to the last game, we're always thinking, what is happening? Are we going to qualify for the World Cup? Now, we're in a position where we have a slight chance of qualifying. The next thing is to protest. Okay, what the NFF is doing is in no way right. I'm not even going to lie. The NFF, they are not doing themselves, they're not doing the players any good, they're not doing Nigeria any good by owing these players. But we're talking about the World Cup here. You shouldn't be protesting for unpaid bonus allowances when you have 2 games to go. I get it. I get it. That is okay. This is the best time to make them attend or get to listen to you guys. So quick. I understand it, but protesting right now for me, I think it's so wrong. It's so wrong. If you look at the Super Falcons, for example, despite all they faced, right, they went to the Women's African competition, and of course they did well. And at some point they also protested, but we know that the Super Falcons Even on a bad day, they can still win the Women African Cup of Nations, just like the big Tigers of Nigeria, the women's basketball team. So I think it's absolutely wrong for the coach, I mean the players, to actually boycott training, because if they fail to beat Gabon on Thursday, Nigerians will come for them. If the Super Eagles, once again, if they fail, Kolade, to beat Gabon, Nigerians will come for them. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Of course, if they fail, Nigerians will pounce on them. They will pounce on them first before they pounce on NFF, and that's so they need this as for Nigeria is a footballing nation. We love football so much, and Nigerian fans are very unforgiving. So these players should not mess it up. They shouldn't mess it up. I'm not saying the fact that they compete will not automatically mean they will. In fact, as it stands now, they had better qualify. Because if they change their mind and they train vigorously tomorrow and they still don't qualify, what has happened? Nigerians would automatically say, oh, see, they obviously didn't give their best. They boycotted training because of bonuses, blah, 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 blah. So already they have set themselves up. This is a huge trap that they're falling into. So they had better get their acts together, do well, and qualify. Failure to do that, they are in hot soup.
Thank
Are
you
you
very
there?
much. Thank you very much for that. Really, yeah. Of course, I can hear you very well. Thank you very much for that, Claudia. Now let's leave that because Claudia, we have a lot to talk about. If we are to talk about Nigerian football, we can spend 99 hours, 90 minutes talking about Nigerian football. But of course, we have to touch on other stories right there. Now let's think about Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, he has said that next year's World Cup will be his last World Cup. And in an interview with Piers Morgan, Ronaldo said that winning the World Cup just does not winning the World Cup does not mean he's not the greatest of all time. That doesn't affect the fact that he's still the greatest of all time, right? And he also mentioned that 6 games, 7 games does not define you. So 7 games shouldn't define me. What do you think about that? Real quick.
Yeah, to start with, I think Ronaldo is a footballer, and I think he has already come to the reality. He has actually embraced that fact that he's never going to win the World Cup. And that's the truth. For a player that he's played in 3 World Cups and he's never scored a knockout goal in the World Cup, I find it very funny when he was celebrating top scorer in World Cup qualifiers. It's funny. You are celebrating being the top scorer in World Cup qualifier, and yet you don't have a goal in the knockout stages of the World Cup, and you've played in like 4. Well, it's an opportunity. He's got the last bat at the cherry. Of course, reality is he can't play in another World Cup. By next year, he'll be 41. So are we saying he will still be playing active football? Is he the only player? Is he the only person to play football in Portugal? So I don't think so. I think obviously this will be the last one. But him saying 6 games does not define. Nobody saying 6 games define you. Of course, I've always held this position. Funny when people say, "Oh, you didn't win the Champions League," which means that you are not a player that won the Champions League. That's false. There are lots of players that didn't win the Champions League. Ronaldo didn't win the Champions League. Sorry, I guess Ronaldo de Lima didn't win the Champions League. Take away his greatness. But I didn't win the Champions League. Didn't take away. In fact, you can do a full 11 of superstars that didn't win the Champions League. Gigi Buffon, Thuram, Pavel Nedved. You know, these guys didn't win the Champions League and everything didn't fall. I don't even think Alexander, I don't even think Pelo won the Champions League. Everything didn't fall. Paris Koto, Del Piero, they didn't win the Champions League. You understand? But yes, we've seen average players like John O'Shea, players like Mikel Sylvester, players like Anderson. They won the Champions League. Even this guy, Scott Carson, he won the Champions League. That's why playing only 90 minutes. He won 14 trophies at Manchester City. So he doesn't. That's the truth. If Ronaldo doesn't win the World Cup, it doesn't make him less of a great player. But don't downplay the importance of the World Cup. Is the biggest trophy in the world. It's gold. It has the dream of every player. If you know your talent is not high up there, your dream is to play in the World Cup. You are made. We know what George Weah did, all just the World Cup. He literally funded the Liberian national team just to play in the World Cup. That was how it was the World Cup. So for Ronaldo, Playing in the World Cup, it goes. I know now the pressure is on him because if Messi had not won the World Cup, maybe okay. But Messi winning the World Cup means,
No,
you know, said what?
Ronaldo said something. Ronaldo said something that I think is actually correct. He said that before Messi won the World Cup, Argentina had won the World Cup before. But before he started playing for Portugal, Portugal had never won any title. And he came in, he has helped them win 3 titles. The Euros part of it, and of course the UEFA Nations League. Now
Oh no,
looking at this scenario that he painted, don't you think is actually correct? Because Portugal has never won the World Cup.
I think it's false. The Euros, what role did he play? Wasn't phenomenal
I mean,
in the final.
we saw him in the finals. We saw how he assisted the coach in cheering the boys up.
So now his job is now to cheer the boys. He was not the only one cheering the boys. Now. Everybody on the bench was cheering the boys. Because
Hmm.
it wasn't they are cheering the boys. See, it's about you trying to downplay the achievements of other people, and it's unfair. And that is the problem I have with Ronaldo. That is the problem I have with Ronaldo. You know, trying to downplay the achievements of all others just because you feel you achieved it, and it's not right. It's not right for me. You know, yes, was the last time Argentina won the World Cup. Argentina has not won. In fact, Argentina has not played in the semi-final of the World Cup since they've not played in the semi-final. Or since 1994, let me say. 1994, they went to the second round. 1998, I think quarterfinals. 2002, I think maybe quarterfinals. It was when Messi joined, right, that they got to their first semi-final, made it to the final, and and years after they got to the finals and they won the trophy. So Messi can as well say, even under Maradona, you guys didn't. I mean, you didn't do this much, but I came in and did this. But it goes beyond that. We need to let him do his part. Let him do his part. He doesn't have to downplay the achievements of others. I feel Messi is living rent free in Ronaldo's head, and that's the truth. When last did you see anybody in Ronaldo? Having Messi, and Messi will be mentioning Ronaldo. He hardly does that. It's Ronaldo because for Ronaldo, Messi is the yardstick. Messi is the benchmark, and that's not how a great player thinks. You can be great.
Okay,
He's great in his
okay,
own time. Nobody's going to deny him his achievement.
all
Nobody's
right.
going to say he wants to score because he wants to beat Ronaldo. What? Messi just wants to play football. But you see
Okay,
Ronaldo, last time he came out and he was talking about Saudi Arabian league being better than the
yeah,
French league. The French league is only PSG that is the top team. Oh, crying out loud. Why?
okay. I just cannot laugh this evening, clearly. But of course, let's leave that. Let's talk about World Wide Web. And for Liverpool fans right now, I don't think this response, they'll be happy with this response, talking about Liverpool fans. And the Premier League referee chief, what Webb says, it was not unreasonable for Virgil van Dijk goal to be disallowed for offside against Man City on Sunday. Now, Van Dijk thought he had scored for Liverpool in 38 minutes, but referee Chris Kavanagh and his assistant Stuart Ball decided that Andrew Robertson had committed an offside offense by ducking under the flight of the ball. So, according to Howard Webb, he said, well, is supporting the officials over the disallowed Liverpool goal. That's according to Howard Webb, saying that there is absolutely nothing wrong with what the official that's the referees what they did in that particular game. The officials what they did in that game against Liverpool by ruling out the goal scored by Virgil van Dijk. But I think that that was actually a goal. Okay, Robertson is coming from an offside position, no doubt about that. But it wasn't in the front of Donnarumma. It was not so close to him, but it was coming from an offside position. He ducked to allow the ball pass. Okay, looking at it from this situation, now don't you think that it can be compared to a player coming off an offside situation, giving space for a player, running from an onside position to actually go get the ball? So it can be compared to that. So if a player is coming off an offside position, they did not touch the ball, but instead leaves the ball for the player coming from an onside position. Don't you think that it can be compared to that? And that goal should have stood. But what we say, the referees looks like they were right to have ruled out that goal.
Yeah, I think I agree with the word web. We've had this discussion, and I think I was very clear. I think Robertson was actually interfering because I was saying it. He saw the flight of that ball heading towards Van Dijk. Point when the flight was when the ball was position at that point. There, he allowed Van Dijk make contact with the ball. Now the ball was mid-flight, heading towards goal. That's now when you wanted. That was now when you wanted to leave that place for crying out loud. At that point in time, there was no way he was going to argue that it was not obstructing play. There was no way it was good. The argument is you are obstructing the view of the goalkeeper. You are obstructing the view of the goalkeeper. So for me, I think that decision was spot on. And I agree with Howard Webb on this.
Okay, now perfect. Let's talk about Liverpool performance against Man City on Sunday. What went wrong with the Reds? I think that decision from the referee to rule out the goal affected the morale, the drive of the Liverpool team. Because if that goal had stood, Man City probably wouldn't have won that game. What do you think?
That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. The stuff of champions is even when your back is against the wall, you do your best and you get the result. Let's not forget there was a time after they got a red card. That didn't stop them from playing. That didn't stop them from playing. So you can't come out and start giving the flimsy excuse that because they disallowed your goal. When they disallowed the goal, it was 1-0. It wasn't as if it was 2-3-0. It was 1-0. It was after they disallowed the goal that City went ahead and scored the second and the third goal. So if Liverpool, well, I would have understood if they lost the game 1-0, they would have said, it could have been 1-1. They lost the game 3-0, comprehensive defeat. So that's not an excuse for me. Liverpool didn't show the stuff of defending champions, and conceding 17 goals in 11 games is unprecedented. It's a shameful display from defending champions. That's never been done by defending champions. Not even when Leicester City won the league. The following season when they were defending it, they didn't concede 17 goals in 11 games. So Liverpool have been very piss poor. They've been piss poor this season, and they cannot hold that as an alibi and say, because they considered they scored a goal and it was disallowed and their morale went down. For crying out loud, we are talking about full-fledged internationals, any big pay. Some of them were signed for box, saying that they were demoralized.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, though. Let's leave that. Let's talk about Lamine Yamal, the talk of the town. The pubic injury. Is it pubic injury or pubic discomfort? Somehow I feel like playing football. There was a time where I experienced something like that. Where while playing, you're having pain in your groin area and you just cannot play. I think what Yamal have to do is he has to stay off football for a few weeks because the doctors could not even come up with a solution. But me, I'm coming up with a solution right now. Let Yamal stay off football for at least 5-6 weeks, right? When he comes back, when he plays, he's gonna come back, but it's gonna be little pain. So I think it's part of what comes with playing so much games, especially when you're pretty young and always want to make use of your legs to win tackles, dribbles, and all of that. So, but this is a story. The Spanish Football Association has expressed surprise concern after releasing Lamine Yamal from the Spain squad following a groin procedure it says he did not know about. The 18-year-old Barcelona winger was selected for the World Cup qualifiers against Georgia and Turkey 15th and 18th November, and the Spanish FA said it was not told about Lamine Yamal's procedure yesterday, the day the squad began training. So that right now he has left the camp. The coaches, Luis de la Fuente, not happy with this one. What do you think about this development for Lamine Yamal?
Yeah, I actually feel that what Yamal is going through is pretty understandable. In a form of bickering between the Spanish Federation de la Fuente and of course, Hansi Flick, and you can't blame. He's had a couple of injuries this season to stop players from Lewandowski to and Lamine Yamal has been in and out of the squad. In fact, the last internationals, he returned injured and he missed a couple of games. So Barca are trying to avoid. Forget they are having it easy. Yeah, they are 3 points behind Real Madrid at the moment, and in the Champions League phase, they have 7 points, and they are mid-table. Just I taking on points. Their next match is Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. They can't afford to have their top players out. They know that if now play, likely that he's going to have excusing himself with. I believe that Spain should be able to navigate those qualifiers without Yamal. They have more than enough replacement. So I think already Barca, yes, Lewandowski is back. It looks like Rafinha will be back after international break, but there's still a certain Pedri who is key to their engine in the middle of the park and he's still out injured. So they can't afford too many injuries. Though personally, I feel that Barca, in the absence of Yamal, they can still cope. I believe that Rashford can still play from that end, especially when Rafinha returns. But all in all, I think Hansi Flick is just trying to protect his prized asset, and I pretty understand. For De La Fuente, yes, I can understand the frustration, but this boy is young. He's not even 18 yet. Allow him some rest. He doesn't have to play all the games. Without Yamal, Spain will survive.
For joining me today. Thank you very much for joining me today on his side with Kenny Bamdele today. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's do this some other time. There you go. That's been the voice and the face of Kolade Motosho, one of the finest sports journalists in Nigeria, talking about some of the top stories making rounds in the world of sports. Okay, before I go, there is one story that I have to talk about. Maybe like a build up. The Final Four is coming up, the Nigeria Premier Basketball League Final Four. And just what I have in front of me, four teams have qualified for the Final Four. That is no news. Lagos Legends, for me, Lagos Legends being in the Final Four is a big surprise. Big surprise. Rivers Troopers, the Kingsmen. Well, that's the most professional team in Nigeria right now. But other teams are catching up. Looks like they're catching up with them in terms of the competition level, in terms of, yes, Rivers Troopers, I think they have done a lot of good for Nigerian basketball. And this is what I think. They have been dominating Nigerian basketball for like 5, 6 years now. And other teams are not happy. They are not the only team in the league. We have to step up. Who would have thought the Lagos Legend would be in the Final Four? If I was told before the start of the playoff eight, I would doubt that. So it means that other teams are ready to displace River Troopers, which means that the Kingsmen also have to keep upping their game because they aren't sleeping. Nile aren't sleeping. Lagos Legends aren't sleeping. Nigeria Customs aren't sleeping. Okay, so Lagos Legends are through to the Final Four. River Troopers, City Buku Chiefs, and Nigeria Customs right there. From 20th to 24, that is what we're going to be witnessing the Final Four right there. So it's all fingers crossed. The coach of Rivers Troopers, Coach Ugo Odaudu, is the best coach in Nigeria. No doubt about that. One of the best in Africa because I see what he did with the team at the Basketball Africa League. He also acknowledged the fact that this time going to be very tough for them. So they are aware of the threat that they have in front of them. Okay, it's time to go. Time to go. How time flies when you are having fun. Thank you so much for joining today's episode of Inside with Kenny Bamdele. I'm going to be sharing again some other time in the course of the week. Yes, until then, I am Kenny Bamdele signing out.